Base is dropped on a new round of soccer down here. It's a Monday, which means it is a reaction Monday. And the way that I phrased it this morning on Twitter, traditionally it's an overreaction Monday, over, on par, under, take your pick. So I just went ahead and said reaction. So it's almost like Lee Hamilton, who was a longtime voice of the San Diego Chargers and was part of the crew back in sports talk radio back in the 80s, and even did a cup of coffee with WCW, where it would always be reaction. I am talking to you. And then he would name like 75 different suburbs of Southern California. Thousand Oaks, Chatsworth, Rancho Palos Verdes, what's on your mind? One of those kind of things. So that hurt. So basically, obviously, main topic of conversations, Atlanta United not going into the playoffs in Major League Soccer for the 2022 season. And I'm just going to open the floor. You guys, beauty of the Twitch pitch and the Twitters. I know that Shiva's already put something in the Twitters this morning, is that's what it's there for. Just go ahead and say what's on your mind, and we will discuss. And I know that it's going to be the topic for the next couple of days as to literally what is on your mind. And nothing is off the table. That's the way that I've always, that's the way that I've always done things. It's the way we've always done things here at Soccer Down Here. Nothing is off the table. So whatever is on your mind, put it in the Twitch pitch, put it in Twitters at Soccer Down Here, and we'll discuss it, because I'm sure that there's a lot on your mind after what happened with the loss with New England. And, you look at the season on the whole, and with the match with New England, it took a little while in both halves for Atlanta United to kind of get the engine running. And in a must-win game, you can't afford to do that. You get the Vrioni penalty, which means you're fighting uphill. And then you get the Joseph equalizer late. But once again, with about 10-plus minutes to go, 10-plus stoppage, you're trying to chase what's going on. And, you got to come out of there with a win. And unfortunately, you didn't. And you're going to be looking back at a season where you missed opportunities in April. You had all of the injuries that you did. Clayton Poss with a question. 3 changes that need to happen with player moves. Need to happen. We'll get into that, and we'll get into everything. So seriously, lay it all out. And next couple of days, I'm sure that as we get into the final home match of the year, or the final home match of the year on decision day, with NYC coming to town, it'll be interesting to see what the lineup looks like. It'll be interesting to see what the crowd looks like. And I hope that from that perspective, I hope that, that you fill the building up one more time for 2022. That's just me. But first, before we get into things, let's get into the opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And as I will perpetually sit here and try to fiddle with this cord so I'm not, tracking it all over the floor. All right, so Kickoff Coffee, once again, there's our QR code for those of you watching on Twitch right there, kickoffcoffeeco.com, kickoffcoffeeco on the Twitters, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And I'm going to go off the board a little bit for the opening kickoff this morning. And I'm going to go over to the Premier League and talk about Erling Haaland and just how ridiculous he has been. I saw the statistic this morning when I was getting everything squared away, and apparently Erling Haaland and Cristiano Ronaldo have the same number of hat tricks in the Premier League, and Haaland has done it in like 200 and something games less. What we're seeing from Erling Haaland is absolutely ridiculous, and it is just amazing what we've seen. And I mentioned last week, I think I mentioned it last week, that for those of us that play fantasy football, I ended up taking the points hit for the number of transfers in a week, and I just went ahead and lined up Erling Haaland and transferred 3 or 4 different guys and put him in my lineup. And so, of course, this week he ends up with 9,000 points, which is kind of what the idea was in the first place. But to see Erling Haaland adjust, and I'll just go ahead and put that in air quotes, to the game in England as quickly as he has, It's been a fun watch. And you look at Manchester City, and they're ridiculous right now. I can't think of any other way to. Yeah, no doubt, Nix. He is a cyborg. And you welcome our robot overlords. He is the Cyberdyne Systems Model 101, or whatever the 21st century version of it is. And there was a couple of things that popped up this weekend where Juve had the chance to sign him and didn't. And now there's the discussion, and we're what? How many games into the season? And I know that Nick's is he's got his Foxes for Monday Night Football with Leicester and Nottingham today. And you're a favorite, Nick's, at a minus 137. With Nottingham Forest coming to town at a plus 370. But we are, let's see, how many matches into the season? Okay, so we're 8 matches into the season in the Premier League, and there's already the discussion that Erling Haaland is only going to be there. Morning, Abby. He's only going to be there for 2 or 3 years before he goes to like Real Madrid or something, and that's what he and his dad want. So, we're already having these discussions 8 matches into his Premier League career, and to see Sharif Haaland is an interesting striker. His frame and burst of speed and the way he moves his body parts to get into positions to score is unreal. Absolutely true. And since I've heard the magical noise, it is time to add this gentleman. Morning, Jarrett.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Thanks, I guess.
Well, how was Shenandoah Valley for those that didn't get the chance to see all of the pictures that you posted across all of the media that is social?
It was nice. It's a long drive, man. If I never see Interstate 81 again, it'll be too soon. If I'm close enough where I can see James Madison University, I've gone too far.
Yes, Harrisonburg, Virginia. And by the way, they beat Texas State. Their transition to the Fun Belt.
Dude, JMU is gonna go undefeated and have to push the NCAA for a waiver.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here for it, but no, it's fine. It's good to be back though. It's good to be back home and not driving a lot every day. Because if you've ever been to Shenandoah and driven through the national park, there's nothing you can get to inside of 45 minutes because Skyline Road is the only thing you can take, and it's 45 minutes to everywhere. It is a geographical oddity.
Yes. Abby's asking, did you get part of Ian in your travels?
No, not really. Had a little bit of rain. Like when we drove back, it was hitting Charleston, and the outer bands were outside of Charlotte, so we just cut. Instead of going all the way down to Charlotte and cutting across, we just went basically to came down 81, cut over to Johnson City, then from Johnson City down to Asheville, take 26 East, catch 85 or 185, flip it to 85, and go home.
Okay. Now, the opening kickoff this morning is I chose Erling Haaland for opening kickoff this morning. And how nuts he's been so far in only 8 matches in the Premier League. Nix brings up the number that he already has as many EPL hat tricks as Jamie Vardy and Cristiano Ronaldo.
I mean, he just scored again while we were talking about it.
Yes, so exactly. Yes, he has.
Look, we knew what he was beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's playing for Pep, who's we've gone over. He's pretty damn good at his job.
Last I heard, yes.
Even if he does, I know some people feel like he gets into the process of overthinking things sometimes with the setup, like in big games. But man, he was doing all this like playing a false nine last year, and it kind of feels like he tied a hand behind his back at times. And now he has untied that hand behind his back, and that hand is somehow turned into a buzzsaw. And the buzzsaw's name is Erling Haaland.
Yes.
It's pretty damn insane.
So it's Erling Scissorhands is what you're saying.
Kind of like he untied the hand behind his back, and that hand turned into an absolute monster. And it's very entertaining.
Yes.
At the same time, Phil Foden also had a hat trick in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Manchester United scored 3 goals and got doubled up. If you had told Manchester United fans before the game, hey, you're going to drop 3 goals on City, they'd been like, great, what's going to happen? Well, we don't want to go that far.
Yeah. I mean, it was 6-1 before 2 late goals, and one of them being a penalty. And I'm sure, but once again, you need that kind of material if you are a Pep Guardiola and you are 8 matches in and you're absolutely ridiculous with your form, you need those kinds of things, kind of like the University of Georgia going to Missouri and winning a close one. You need to have that kind of information about yourself going forward that, hey, things aren't perfect. We have things that we can work on if we are going to accomplish our goals. You know, with Georgia going to Missouri, there's stuff to work on. Games like that are going to happen. For Manchester City, you gave up too late when you were up 6-1. Those are the kinds of things
That's
that
the thing he's going to be most mad about too. Like, he's not going to be like, he's going to be like, yeah, you scored 6 goals. That's great. Don't give up 2 late goals.
Yeah.
Especially you get in Champions League where it's 2 legs. You don't want to give up those 2 late goals.
Mm-mm.
You don't want to give anybody life. You want to snuff out the flames as fast as you can. This is Smokey Bear philosophy. We're going to drown the fire, then pour ash over it and dirt, and we are going to make sure the thing is not smoking before we walk away.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to do. You have to snuff out all life.
Yes.
And when you are trying to kill off a game like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an art form. It's not easy. You don't just wake up and get out of bed and do it. Like, teams got to learn how to do it. Like, we talk about teams have to learn how to win and learn how to kill games off too.
Yep.
We watched Atlanta go through that. We watched other teams go through that. And we watched teams like Atlanta this year be a team that can basically take a game where it feels like they're out of it and claw their way back into it. Both those are things you have to learn how to do. And sometimes it takes 2 ends of the same knife. Where it's got a team that doesn't know how to close it out, taking on a team that knows how to claw back into it, or vice versa. So yeah, you gotta develop that skill to just kind of just snuff out the game.
Yep. Nix is in and he says Eric Ten Hag set out 30-year-old Christian Eriksen and McTominay as, quote, defensive midfielders with Casemiro on the bench.
Please move McTominay. I want to see what he can do. Like, just get him out of there, man.
And Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Harry Maguire's son. I mean, oh my goodness. It's like every single chance you continue to give Harry Maguire, whether it's on national duty or with Manchester United recently, it just has not functioned. It's like somebody needs to unplug Harry Maguire and plug him back in. Then, you know, it's just, it's just not good. But, those are the things that you're looking at for Manchester City. And right now, Manchester City, as we look at things heading into to Monday Night Football, 20 points, 2 draws in their first matches, first 8 matches, 6 wins, 2 draws. Do not have a blemish on their record yet. Goal difference of plus 20 so far for Manchester City, and you're second in the league. 7 wins for Arsenal right now, 8 matches played, 21 points. And you've still got a couple of folks that have only played 7 matches. But yeah, Arsenal, Manchester City, Tottenham, 1, 2, and 3. But there's already a 3-point gulf between Manchester City and Tottenham at 2 and 3.
But here's the thing: is like, I don't want to take away from what Arsenal's doing, because
No.
every Arsenal fan I know though is waiting for that other shoe. I think it's going to drop in their mind, and they're waiting for it to drop.
Mhm.
But until then,
Yes.
enjoy this,
Yes.
because you've won 7 of 8. You've been really damn good. You have basically started the season like an old firm team, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. As City has started like going full Carthage and just absolutely salting the earth of everyone they play against.
Yes.
Arsenal keeps just winning it. You don't have to win games like 5-0 and 6-2, 6-3 and have multiple hat tricks. Just keep winning. It's tough because you know City's going to be right on your tail the entire time. They are going to be right there. But I mean, you just got to find a way to keep winning if you're Arsenal.
Yes. That's the biggest task right now if you're Mikel Arteta is continue to win, sir. And there you go. So because you got that cheetah chasing you down, and the bottom line is that you don't want to be the wildebeest there in the nature film. When it comes to Wild Kingdom, you want to be Marlon Perkins. You don't want to be Jim. And that's what you're looking at. So Yeah, Erling Haaland, Manchester City. That's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, there's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. And yes, I know I've got to figure it out to where I can end up with like a QR code in the low corner or something like that. That's a larger version of this, and I'm sure there's some kind of technology that I can do it with. But Kickoff Coffee CO on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Thanks to everybody who has been picking up Kickoff Coffee so far. And once again, use the code soccer down here 15% off of your purchase when it comes to Kickoff Coffee, and then they in turn take 10% and roll it over into the youth initiatives in the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, let the queue warm up a little bit to kind of get everybody's thoughts on Atlanta United, on the match with New England, and losing and not making the postseason. So, Jarrett, how much of the game / highlights / post-match analysis did you get to pick up while you were working your way back in towards civilization?
Enough to be disappointed. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
I got enough of it to be disappointed with the fact that you kind of replicated what the 2017 and 18 teams did, which is when they always came back from a break, it was, I don't know, it was you always came back from a break slowly.
Yeah.
You remember when those international breaks would hit for the 17 and 18 teams, they were better when they had a bunch of games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of felt like this one. Like the international break came at the worst possible time.
No doubt.
You'd won 2 straight. You had played Philadelphia off the field.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, credit to Charlotte. I thought Charlotte would be done because of the injuries and just the wear and tear, but they continued that trend. They did. Let's be generous here, and I say this with tongue firmly planted in cheek.
Yeah.
Atlanta softened Philadelphia up for Charlotte quite nicely, but Daniel Rios scores 4 goals, and all of a sudden Philadelphia looking a little mortal because you got 2 teams on the other side of the playoff line that, look, they didn't get beat by Atlanta. They got beat up on the field by Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And then Charlotte went ahead and actually did it in a tangible way and got 3 points out of it. But, I mean, yeah, it was disappointing. Like, New England gets most of the ball early on in the game. Atlanta had a couple opportunities. That was the thing, I think, when I saw the comments and I went back and watched it, I'm like, there are stretches of this game that aren't as bleak as I feel like it was painted on social media.
Right.
The problem is Atlanta didn't convert their chances, which is a tale as old as time this year.
Yes.
But you had opportunities. Well, Almada puts it over the post where Brooks Lennon gets a header and can't keep it down on the back post. Like, you had opportunities. You just didn't put them on frame, which, again, tale as old as time this year for this team. Yeah. And it's very disappointing. But, yeah, man, it's I don't know. Disappointing is about where I begin and end with it because, like, I mean, because of the way the rest of the schedule played out over the weekend, you probably would have been eliminated by the midweek anyway. But that doesn't mean you didn't want to push and you didn't want to take 6 points and keep all that positive momentum. Now New York City's coming in. Keaton Parks is back in that team. They look really good with him back in. They look more like the team from the summer, but not exactly the same. It's disappointing all in all, because you felt like it could have been. It was a good opportunity to really build momentum and to push the teams above you. You didn't control your own destiny because of past failures this year, but yeah, Joseph comes off the bench, gets his bike goal that he's been his scissor kick goal he's been trying to score for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Finally puts it away, but yeah, aside from that, like, nobody's converting chances.
Yeah.
You created a few in transition that were nice in the first half, but yeah, the ones that stick out to me is Almada cutting across the box and puts it through the uprights basically. Then Brooks Lennon gets a header on the back post and isn't able to get on top of it and heads it over as well. And both of those were good opportunities. And there's a chance if you're converting and being efficient, it could be 2-0 at that point inside of 35 minutes. Instead, you give up a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And You pull one back with Joseph in the second half, which, him being that super sub works right now, especially like if you look at like his pressure numbers. If you're looking for a striker who's going to lead a press, he doesn't do that. Doesn't do that at this point. I don't know if it's his knee. I don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if it's because he's like changing as a player as he gets more mileage on his legs. But um, if you and then the choice becomes: do you start a guy like that? If you're not sure he can give you 90 minutes, do you start a guy like that, or do you bring him off the bench because you brought him off the bench? He got you the scissor kick goal. It's a good cross in. It's an absolutely brilliant finish. Obviously, I mean that's going to be goal of the week because Atlanta United's social media team is, and the fans are going to make that goal of the week as it
Yeah.
should be. It's brilliant. But then you give up another one in transition, and
Well, but you're chasing the game at that point because you have
you
to win.
are. I know, but it is disappointing because listen, you created a few opportunities in the first half. You're on the road. You're coming off of a long layoff because the international window is still stupid.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's laid out right now.
For a World Cup position in a stupid place.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we're doing stupid stuff for the World Cup because we decided to give a World Cup to a country that's, built their entire system based off slave labor. But that's a
Mhm.
conversation for a different time.
Yes.
I guess
We'll have it
we
in
can. I mean,
November.
we can get uncomfortable about it. I'm fine with that.
We'll have that
Um,
in November
but
all long.
but yeah, then it feels like you didn't carry into that momentum into this game, and your season officially ended. It might have officially ended this week. It might have officially ended on decision day, but
Mm-hmm.
it definitely ended because you were not you were not clinical in front of net, and there you go. Striker position is going to be an interesting one in the offseason for me because right now you have, if Joseph Martinez is that guy who can't give you 90 minutes,
Right.
um, and can't lead the line of pressure or counter pressure, and is trying to be it is basically like a poacher at this point. Which, I mean, you fine as a poacher, but if that's what he is, then right now between him, Cisneros, and Dom Dwyer, you don't really have like that killer starting nine, and that's something you have to address in the offseason. I don't know how
Yes.
you do it. I don't know how the money shakes out.
Right.
This entire conversation of get rid of the salary cap, let teams spend what they want to spend. Um, I'll be interested to see what they do in the offseason because, yes, Cisneros, he works his tail off, but he hasn't been able to produce in the second half of the season.
Yep.
And I don't know if you trigger anything in that loan deal or if he goes back. I don't know if Don Dwyer's here next year. His family's out, his children are out in LA now.
Right.
He's always wanted to be close to them. I don't know if he's here next year. I'd hope he is. Don Dwyer can stay as long as he wants, but I don't know if he's here or not.
And that goes into Clayton Pause's question that was lead off this morning here on the Reaction Monday. He wanted to know what 3 changes need to happen this offseason, whether it's player moves, front office, etc. And I think that the questions at striker might be 1, 2, and 3. At least to start, you can go subset 1, ABC. But looking at how you broke it down, Dom Dwyer was fantastic for the role that he was given. And he has been the team guy. He has been that piece of sandpaper that you've needed. And he's one of the first guys to stand up for his teammates and hop in the pile when he's needed to do so. And I think that for someone that we have seen, whether it's mainly we've seen him with the purple team in Central Florida. Yes, we've seen him with Kansas City and Toronto, but you really didn't get to see him in Kansas City or Toronto. But for someone who has adapted to and adopted what he has been asked, Dom Dwyer, I've loved to see that piece of sandpaper here as a part of this lineup. But to your point, does he want to go to the Western Conference? I think that with what we've seen from Dom, he will be revered by the fan base here in this city for however long that he is a part of Major League Soccer. If he goes someplace else and he comes back, he'll get a hell of an ovation, rightfully so. But does he want to stay? Does he need to go closer to home or closer to his family? That's the biggest question with Dom. Your question with Cisneros got off to a hot start, but then he seemed to hit a wall. You know, when you look at
Wasn't
Cisneros,
clinical enough.
no,
Like if you could combine his work rate with Joseph's finishing, you would have what you need.
mm-hmm.
The thing that always sticks out to me about this year is it feels like go look at Nashville. Nashville lost last night
Yeah.
because they lost to Houston. It's so
Yeah,
stupid.
they
This
did.
weekend was so drunk, man. The thing with Nashville is if you put a and it's hard to put. I say this knowing that it's hard to do. If you put a body on Hani Mukhtar, which is tough because he likes to float,
Same with
like to
Carlos
drift
Bailey.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, he drifts around. He wants to find the game. It's hard to just man mark him.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can put a body on him, like keep him from being able to turn, keep him from being able to do anything with the ball, and that might mean showing him zero respect, like Seattle showed Vela in 2019.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, like he gets the ball, someone puts a hip into him. Simple as that. I mean, and it's not. I say it's simple as that. It's not as simple as that because you're hitting a moving target. He's very slippery. He's very good, but you show him no respect and you don't let him take over the game. And he still hit the crossbar last night on a beautiful chip. Just bad luck not finish. But their offense has gone with him. I feel like you came into this with the idea of like, hey man, while we're trying to figure stuff out, if Joseph's able to come back and be Joseph, you could have had something more. But it felt like when he came back from the knee, remember there were a number of chances he missed that you're just like, he makes those.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just misfired at the worst possible time. We know about the reported dust up, and it feels really weird and tense. He's able to come on and provide you something, and he's able to find space and get those free headers in the box, whether that's through bad marking or his good movement or a combination of both, whatever. But he's able to finish and able to put those away.
Yep.
If you could combine Cisneros' work rate with Joseph,
yeah,
you'd have something.
Yes.
I think you'd have something that would fit more into what they're looking for right now.
Mm-hmm.
But what you end up with is 2 to 3 guys who aren't complete strikers right now for what Gonzalo Pineda wants to do. And
it's like you need to take column A, column B, and column C and combine them together into one entity.
Yeah, Jason, Nashville is still making the playoffs. You're right. It was got a little dodgy there for a bit than Hani Mukhtar. I remember Hani Mukhtar snatched the MLS MVP away from Sebastian Driussi in the last month and a half. Nashville was out of the playoff picture a month ago. It was only for a couple of days. They were floating down there in that 5, 6, 7, 8 range, and Hani Mukhtar dragged them into it, which is what we hoped Joseph would be able to do, 90 minutes at a time. And I think you hoped that at the beginning of the season. He goes under the knife again for the arthroscopic and never really able to find himself.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is next. Cisneros runs his butt off every game, but we can't build a team assuming we'll run defensive rag and someone else will score second half. I agree. So you got to find a balance here. If Joseph can get healthy and be that guy, cool. I don't know because we all saw the report Saturday. I haven't heard anything otherwise,
right.
What's confirmed or otherwise. We all saw Joseph's social media posts as well.
Yep.
But I don't know what the end game is here. So ideally, if you're able to keep him here and mend fences, he's able to be that guy for 90 minutes like you're used to. But I don't know if he is. Right. Maybe he's changed as a player. Maybe his body is changed as a player. I don't know. But we're just going to have to see. But then if he's not, then you need to go find somebody who can be that striker.
Looking at, and for those that missed it, came from Michele Giannone, who was on the sidelines for that match. And let me go back and find the So Michele reports Joseph Martinez requested to meet with Atlanta United's front office at the end of the season to determine his future in Atlanta. And so that's what Giannone reported since there were sidelines for that match. And so, yeah, that's the larger question here when you're looking at Josef Martinez. With all of these different elements that we've been discussing this morning, it's price point. Remember, this is a cap league, first and foremost. You have to look at price point. You have to look at the output that you're getting for that particular price point and the cost benefit analysis. Is it there? Is the 30 minutes of Josef getting the bicycle kick that he's been trying for the last couple of years, having that kind of effort,
absolutely worth it, by the way. Jesus Christ, that was so beautiful.
Yeah. So over a 34 game schedule, is the price point worth a 30 or a 35-minute Josef Martinez every single time out?
If that's what he is, it's not worth a DP salary slot. If that's what he is,
right?
If let's say they've been fences, and he comes back next year with a healthy knee and is able to do what you're used to seeing, then yeah. But how do you feel about the knee getting better? That's a question for doctors. That's a question for trainers who are crunching numbers. They wear those tracking devices. They're looking at numbers, every day, every week to see about what guys are doing on or off the field.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is what he is now, then yeah, I can't pay a guy a DP salary to be a guy who comes off the bench. But if he still has that 90 minutes in him to press, and I think that's one of the reasons you still see Luis on the field so much is Luis is such a good defender up the field.
No doubt.
Dude is just completely I don't know what happened to his offensive game in terms of finishing. He can still dribble people. He can still run. He can still press. Can't finish right now. Don't know what that's about, but
I think
otherwise you got to have the pressure.
I think we need to sacrifice the live chicken where Luis is concerned. That's just my guess. But to your point, the defensive numbers that we have seen from Josef, and I want to go back and find, because you found them, and I want to bring up some of them if I can go back and find the full screen that you found. The screen cap that you found.
Oh, it's a soccer reference. You can look at their pressing numbers and their pressures, and striker pressures are hard to measure in that sense because you're measuring them against other players, and they don't pressure as much as a midfielder.
Yeah.
Or as somebody on the wing. So it's kind of hard to quantify. But yeah, I guess his pressures haven't been there. And if you want to be a team that provides pressure, you got to have. We talked about this. Go look at Charleston Battery. When people talk about let's just change to a pressing team, well, you can't just do it overnight because then you look like Charleston and you ship 6 goals a game because you got guys just pressing loosely,
right,
and not in the step and not believing in the system, or even if they do believe in the system, not doing it efficiently, and then you get sliced the absolute hell open.
Yeah.
So if you're in a situation where you can say, hey, look, drop back, we'll provide the pressure from elsewhere and be a poacher, cool, yeah. Maybe he's a 90-minute guy doing that. And maybe he's a 90-minute guy going forward after an off season to really rest his leg.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard to gauge. There's a lot of other questions about this team in the off season too, because you have expensive guys. As much as I love Emerson Hyndman, you got to figure him out because he hasn't, when he's played, you'll go back to 2020, had some really good stretches in 2020 before COVID shut down.
Yep.
Had some good stretches last year before he blew his ACL. Came back in. I thought he was solid when he came back in this year, then got hurt again.
Yep.
No one's ever made a roster on a training table, and especially at that salary number, you got to have some conversations about Emerson Hyndman.
Yep.
Because it's a lot of money to be sitting on the sideline.
True. And
you got to figure out your defensive side of things. Like does Juan Obrata stay?
I think the answer to that is yes. You make that happen.
But so what else does Alan Franco go? Is Miles gone this year? My plan for Miles was play this year, light it up, go to a World Cup, get sold in the offseason for a bunch of money to Europe and go live that dream. do European teams still want him, and would it still be a price that Atlanta's interested in? Because
Well,
you
and
have to balance this concept
yes,
of, yes, we want him to realize his dream in Europe, but you also don't want to sell somebody for pennies on the dollar
right.
and set this standard where teams around the world are going to go, well, you can go get guys for cut right there, and they're not going to fight you on it. So
Hmm.
you have to find a balance with understanding that, yeah, he's coming off of a blown Achilles. Teams might still be interested, but you're not just going to give him away for free.
No, no, no,
That's not
uh,
how it works. Like
no.
this isn't a mock trade simulator where you can force the trade through like an old PlayStation 2 game.
No. And really quickly on Soccer Reference, there are 23 defensive metrics that they have gauges, and only 5 of them have Joseph Martinez, and technically 6. Let's just go ahead and say 6 of those 23 metrics. So 1/4 of all of those defensive metrics have Joseph Martinez in the upper 50%, and I'm rounding up from shots saved at 48%. So,
Dude, once he got back on the field and once he found his rhythm, he was back being clinical in front of net.
mm-hmm. But yeah, the defensive. But when you mentioned Luis Arujo and defense, Joseph Martinez in defense is only top half in 6 of 23 categories in defensive metrics for Soccer Reference.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's not only that with him. I think the thing that frustrated me with him is because we saw these stretches in the past where he would drop into the midfield. If he wasn't running the channels between the center backs, he would drop into the midfield and play one-touch passing, and it's been sloppy this year.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted him to get back to like, hey man, if your one touch isn't there like that, just run the channels, man. If you can just run the channels, do it. But yeah, to the Rakshikari, forgot Hyman was still here. Paratas played Campbell out of a spot. That's the thing is Campbell's not. If it comes down to guys leaving on the back line, Campbell's not going to be that guy. That's homegrown. Because of salary structure in MLS, you're not going to send a homegrown packing, and especially like George Campbell with his just raw talent, and he's been really inconsistent this year when he was on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But when he was good, he was real damn good.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so much raw talent there. You're gonna give it as much time as you possibly can. You got Noah Cobb coming too.
Yep.
And Noah Cobb is mature beyond his years as a center back. Two's game, man. This Two's team is tough to measure in that sense. To like look at the numbers and the goals allowed with the Twos, and it's hard to look at that and go, yeah, Noah Cobb was good this year. Vicente Reyes got better as the year went on. Justin Garces is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to like find all that, digging into the number of goals and to actually see what they did well. But yeah, I don't know what they do on the back line because you've got those defensive guys that might be a bit of a logjam. I don't know where guys are going to get minutes.
You mentioned Alan Franco, and once again, this is courtesy of our friends at FB Ref. Alan Franco, when it comes to 7, 14, 20 defensive metrics, 20 metrics that are measured for Alan Franco. Alan Franco is 80th percent, 70, let's say 70th percent, upper half. Let's go upper half. Upper half in 4, 7, 10, 14, almost 15 of 20 categories in Major League Soccer when it comes to Alan Franco. Top 10% in assists, top 15% in XG assists, top 10% passes attempted, 95% pass completion, 95th percentile pass completion, 82nd percent progressive passes, 86% in carries, 95th percentile dribbles completed, 71st% in pressures, 80th percent in tackles, and this is across Major League Soccer. 76% in interceptions, 90th percentile in blocks per match. And that's based on his 3,164 minutes played. So that's what you're looking at from Alan Franco, right?
You've got a lot of questions because you have these log jams. It's not just at center back. Like, how do you balance the left side of this attack?
Yeah.
You can't take Andrew Gutman off the field.
No.
Andrew Gutman has really evolved into heart and soul and leader on this team. It's awesome. Let's as much as it's been maligned, of decision making. I think that one deserves a golf clap because you didn't give up a lot to get that spot to get him in the re-entry draft.
Yep.
And he's really turned into great value on that left back role. But you have Caleb Wiley, who, again, is Caleb Wiley is going to be, if he continues to progress the way he has been, and considering he's 17, he's going to be in that pool for national team, like not necessarily World Cup, not this year, of course not, but like next cycle. He's got 4 years to grow into a guy who's going to be in that conversation. I think he's got that much talent.
And we've seen.
How do you get those two guys on the field together?
Right.
And how do you get Edwin Mosquera on the field as well, who really has impressed me in the last month plus? Mosquera's been really good.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get all those guys on the field together? How do you balance minutes between making sure you have Gutman on the field, who has been an absolute rock for this team, and then also balance having Caleb Wiley getting minutes in development while getting Mosquera on the field, who, when he's been coming on as a sub, has been really good. I wouldn't mind seeing him start the last game. Machop Chol might be the odd man out where, Machop Chol was in a homegrown deal, hasn't been able to stay healthy, hasn't been able to consistently produce when he has been on the field. I don't know. Honestly, I think he might be the odd man out where, you let him go and he goes and seeks his fortunes elsewhere. I think he is a professional quality player. I don't know where that is. I think the logjam is too strong in Atlanta for that.
Yeah. I know a lot of folks are looking at Franco Ibarra as well. The six defensive metrics that Franco Ibarra has, mainly top 10% in pressures, top 5% in tackles, top half in interceptions, top 4% in blocks, top 20% in clearances, and top 15% in aerials won. So those are a truly defensive midfielder with some sandpaper in him. You see a lot of green that's attached to a guy like Franco Ibarra. But, you look at this group, and
he's just been so inconsistent.
I know.
At times. Ibarra has been maddening because he's had some games where you're like, well, that was a masterpiece. Like last year in Seattle was an absolute masterpiece. But that's a long time ago. And Marseille, you got to find a way to duct tape him here.
Yes.
Even if you go out into the market and you find basically a better version of a Marseille, you have to keep a Marseille here because of what he gives you as a depth piece. And in this league, in a stupid ass salary cap league, you have to have guys like that.
And you look at, and I'll go to Sadic's numbers at FBref just to kind of get a look at it. And you see a lot of green there as well. Top half in shots, top half in assists, top third in XG assists, top third in shot creating actions, top third in passes attempted, top quarter in pass completion, top half in progressive passes, top half in progressive passes received, top 60th percentile in pressures, top quarter in tackles, top 20% in blocks. So that's what you're getting out of a guy like a Marseille so far this year. 22 matches played, he's got the 1 assist, but you're getting all of those different things that are attached to him as well. And to your point, we don't know if you're going to get Brad Gazan from day number 1 because of the Achilles, and we have seen him in the puffy chamber as he's been doing his road work. And you don't know what you're going to get from Miles. You honestly don't. You legitimately do not know if they're going to be ready from moment number 1 in training camp, or if you're going to need that depth again going into next season. And there were 8 separate goalies for both the first team and the second team this year. 8 separate goalies.
Hell, the Twos played a 16-year-old the other night.
Nash Skoglund, absolutely. Too. Yeah, he was the 8th one. He is the 8th keeper.
And by the way, the only reason he's there is because you didn't have Justin Garces, and Vicente Reyes is with Chile's youth national team.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Johnny Fortune is with Trinidad and Tobago senior team.
Yeah,
and Johnny Fortune's another one, by the way. He's on a homegrown deal next year.
Yeah,
that midfield's getting congested. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very interesting how they balance that.
Johnny Vial is on international duty too.
Yeah, Johnny Vial is continuing to develop and grow, and I know that Jack Collison is a huge fan of his, and his development. And it's been and it's frustrating watching young guys grow sometimes because they'll grow in spurts and then they'll plateau. And then it feels like they're just not taking that next step, and then they'll take the next step, then they'll take another one for good measure. It's weird, man. But yeah, that midfield, you talk about, Johnny Fortune being a part of it. Is it Heinemann and Rossetto both who are, question marks because you've been running out midfield out there of Marcedic and Santi Sosa. Looks good.
Yeah.
And
this is the Santi Sosa that you have been looking.
This is the Santi Sosa everyone fell in love with, man.
Yeah, the one that sent Blaise Matuidi and hip checked him into retirement.
Yes, it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got this dearth of homegrowns coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how quickly they'll be able to impact the first team.
Right.
You don't just grow guys like Caleb Wiley on trees.
But still, in a cap league, you need
you got to find a way.
You need this kind of activity in a cap league, and to have what you're seeing where teams are building through their academies and having those young talents that are there, it's vital in a cap league, bottom line, to have that kind of talent. And you're seeing Atlanta United develop that kind of talent in guys like Cobb and Fortune and Vial and all the young keepers and things like that. So no, it's across the board. It's something that is absolutely vital to the growth of the club. You can't just you can't just
keep buying all the time. You got to develop inside. And I don't know how good those guys will be this year coming up. This offseason will be interesting. The second team playing in MLS Next Pro will be interesting. Shouts out, by the way, as I'm about to leave, Coleman Gannon. Coleman Gannon scoring the winner last night. Former Atlanta United 2 player Coleman Gannon scoring for Columbus Crew 2 in their playoff match.
Yes,
that was good to see.
Yes.
He left Atlanta United 2 years ago and really bet on himself. And
that's Indiana, didn't he?
Yeah, and then he left. But then he left Indiana, or I don't think he set foot on Indiana. I don't think he played a minute for them. I think he left before he played and really bet on himself, and didn't do anything for a bit. I forget where he went on his first stop, but it wasn't really clicking. And then now he's with Columbus Crew 2, and scores that winner last night. Hopefully Coleman Gannon can continue to grow. Because it's unfortunate when players develop under your system and then make hay with somebody else, because you want to keep all that talent for yourself, but you can't. And some guys just succeed. Some guys just kind of plateau and then succeed elsewhere. And I'm very happy to see him succeed elsewhere. In the same vein that I'm very happy to see Philip Goodrum has gone to Memphis and is just scoring goals by the gross. Laurent Kisiadou has been able to really take that step as well. So it's awesome to see. People talking about the midfield.
It's like Memphis 901 has turned into Atlanta United 2 West.
Basically. And they've taken those guys and they've really hit their stride out there. It's been really impressive to see and been really great to see. Now this will be a conversation for a lot of people is how do you balance that midfield with Heinemann and Rossetto? Because I think they're both really talented. They're different kinds of players.
Yep. Both
cost a lot of money. But if they can't stay healthy, you got to figure something out in a cap league. I wish because if it wasn't a cap league, if you could just spend as much as you want, I wouldn't care. Yeah, keep them, whatever. Your budget charge is high, whatever. We can spend as much as we want. Who cares? But in a cap league, you gotta find ways to balance this.
Unless you're Miami, before Chris Henderson showed up. Coleman Gannon is listed, according to our friends at Transfermarkt, as after he left the Atlanta United Academy, July 1st, 2021, as without club until March of 2022 when he was picked up by Crew 2, and he scored 4 goals, 2 assists in 20 matches.
And as I'm about to leave, Arabian Prince, Jason hasn't done it in a while because he's still dealing with long COVID. Actually talked to him yesterday, and still not feeling great.
No.
It just doesn't seem to be changing for him, unfortunately. So
no. And so, the biggest thing for Jason is to make sure that he is as well as humanly possible.
Basically, he loads up on adrenaline Red Bull to call a game and then crashes again.
Basically, yeah. So we will see you tomorrow, yes?
I mean, that's the game plan.
Okay. All right. So then we will see you again tomorrow, and welcome back.
Well, thank you.
All right, go enjoy the rest of your Monday for what it's worth. Jared. So Jared is officially back. But yeah. And Arabian Prince, sadly, Jason is not the only person that I know that those of us here at the network know that is fighting long COVID, and it sucks. And yeah, to what Jarrett said, it's absolutely true. Basically, he tries to get up enough adrenaline and energy, and Red Bull helps out with that. And he'll call a match, and then after the match is over, it just literally just it completely and totally crashes, and it takes uh, different amounts of time to recover and everything that's associated with it. So his number one priority should be and always will be here uh, to be as well as possible. And he's got to make sure that he is as healthy as possible, and he's got to look out for himself. And so that's why, uh, thanks to all of you guys for putting up with me as I've been learning technology over the last couple of months. But no, I'm going to say it. We love Jason very much, and we just want him to be. We want him to be well. And so the biggest thing is that he is as well as possible for all the matches that he calls, whether it's for Atlanta United, for the twos, for the colleges that tap him on the shoulder and sit there and say, "Hey, we'd love to have your expertise calling our matches." So it's State, Oglethorpe. We all call the Oglethorpe matches. Uh, and there's a little Mercer tapped in there as well. But no, he's got to be as well as possible on a daily basis, and that's the biggest thing, is that he is well. And so that's why we still do the show, and because there's always stuff to talk about, and hopefully there will be a day where he can do taped material, and maybe around the World Cup or something like that, where Jason can do tape material and he can still be a part of the network on a daily or an almost daily basis. But no, right now, number one priority for him is to just be safe and well. Bottom line, safe and well for Jason, and that's where it is. So that's why Jarrett and I host a show, and it's a little bit more guest driven, and then and what you guys do on the Twitch pitch, and we have all these active conversations every single day. And I know that a lot of stuff gets picked up every single day, and I'm glad that you guys want to keep talking about it, because we'll talk about it as long as you want to. Obviously, during high school football season, the hours kind of change a little bit. Thursdays are always power hours, and we kind of shifted things toward 8:45 on Friday mornings because of Weekend Whip Around and things like that. But yeah, we try to do as close to the normal broadcast week as we've set, over the last 6 years. I mean, this is our 6th year of doing this network, and it's been absolutely amazing to be able to cover the game the way that we have, and continue to see it build out and build out and build out like it has in Statesboro. And, to have somebody like Darren Van Tassel, an owner and a president of a team in USL League One, come on the show and talk about things for real big moments for them. And it was a 1-1 draw last night in Statesboro for the first match ever at Tormenta Stadium against Richmond. So they need another win to solidify a playoff position. But big night last night in Statesboro, and it was great to have Darren Van Tassel on to talk about it. But all right, so now that we are in hour number 2, we'll get into your thoughts if we haven't addressed them. But I'll just buzz through the timeline. And once again, this week, as we head into the regular season finale, I know there's going to be a lot on your mind, and that's what we're here for. Literally, whatever's on your mind, bring it up. We'll talk through it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk, we'll get through everything that you guys have on your mind. And obviously with the off season, we'll talk about that as well. So nothing's going to change here. Twitch pitch is still going to be the same. We're still going to be dialing it up at 9:05 every morning. And there's always going to be stuff to talk about, whether it's postseason stuff and World Cup stuff, and then getting back into training camp, and everything will be here with the January window before you know it. But right now, since it is, you're ready to fire people. Hope it's not me, Bart. I hope you're not looking to fire me. All right. So since it is the top of the hour, and I've got to lower the music. I don't know why it doesn't stick to the level that I put it at the last time I cut the promo. But no, it's no. Thank you, Katie. Anytime we can keep the snow rolling, more, it's great. All right, so Here we go with the promo since it is top of the hour. And it wasn't too bad. So the music level wasn't too bad. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonize service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. A Lemonize service has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use a Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. The Lemonize service offers a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. The Lemonize service kind to the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or any kind of masking agent that you have either under the sink or above you in the cupboard, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard to bring out that masking agent, you spray it in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent. You're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends at Eliminize do with their proven scientific formula that attacks it all the way down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy, one of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. One place you need to go is the website, eliminize.com. And I've got to grab my pen because that is where we do this now. But you go to the website, eliminize.com, add a /Atlanta after that. So it's eliminize.com/Atlanta. So they know what part of the world that you are requesting their services from to help you with your odor problems. Eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. No, Abby, I'd love to have an easel, because then what I could do is I could take the Kickoff Coffee. What I'd love is like a tea stand or another coat rack, like over my right shoulder, like about right here, even though that would mask my AFC Richmond scarf. Something in here over the right-hand side. Eliminize. I mean, I need to talk to our buddy Scott Flood of the Flood Project and see if I can get a better bendy here with Eliminize, because since it's been up there for 6 months, it has kind of gotten a little less than taut, and so that's where we are with that. So yeah, I definitely could use. Yeah, well, we could hang it from the ceiling. We could. Would need some grommets though, I think. And I think I used the right word. So, could we hang it from the ceiling? Well, yeah, we could. But okay, so if we hung it from the ceiling, I could use the grommet here with the Auburn cowbell. I could probably use it there. And yes, no doubt, create an image using. Wow. Okay. Hang on, Nick. Hang on just a second. Okay. So that's the end of the number. So, all right. So let me get into what you guys are talking about with the overhangs. Let's see. Better easel. Right. Can we hang it from the ceiling? Yeah. So we can hang it from the ceiling, but then you couldn't get the full blown Eliminize experience right there, or the full Kickoff Coffee experience, because then the QR code would be really, really, really small. So we've got that. So you're looking at, all right. So you can create an image to use during the stream. Yeah. And that's the thing next is I've got to figure out how to do the QR code for Kickoff Coffee and make it bigger, because I know we've been talking about putting the QR code like down here, but then as long as you don't confuse the Eliminize QR code and the Kickoff Coffee QR code, then we'd be all right. Yeah, I know, graphics, exactly. Yes, and Abby, that'd be great. Yes, and Coco, lower thirds down here, absolutely. I mean, I can do a lower third because I've done the lower thirds before, and see, we can do that. We've got the crawl, so we have crawls that we can do. Yeah, so the crawl exists as a ticker, and so and then you've got that live at 9:05 or whatever. So yeah, so we have the ticker abilities that I've asked Scott to create image files for me. Could put that in StreamYard. Okay, I could. Okay, so I will do that, Nick. That's good to know. So, all right. So that's enough for behind the scenes down here. But yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, Abby, this has been here for a while, and you get the when it's hung, when you hang it like that, and you have it kind of has a mind of its own sometimes, and so you kind of have to adjust it appropriately, and then hope that the glare isn't taken away from the right hand side. So I know I've got to figure out something to do. Yes. Uh, so I will. Bart, I'll reach out after the show, and we can get all this kind of stuff squared away. So, but then it'd give you less to poke fun at me about on a daily basis. All right, top of the order. All right, let's go to the top of the order, and we'll go through all of the things, kind of rapid fire, because there is Monday Night Football and other things to talk about. I know that Nick's is probably going to be gnashing his teeth and biting his nails with Nottingham Forest and Leicester at 3:00. Clayton, I hope that we talked about all the stuff in the offseason. Obviously, you're looking at striker. That's the biggest thing. So striker, midfield, defense, injuries, all of that stuff. And it's probably more than 3 changes, but you've got to look at each and every situation and look at it that way. All right. So Emilio mentioned to Jarrett, seems like coach speak when we continue to hear great practices, but not translating to the real game. Maybe the players can't adapt. If it's a possibility based on Pineda seemingly more close to hindsight than FDB as far as flexibility, I feel concerned. Well, Emilio, also remember that we're coming up with the January window too. And we talked about it with changes with Clayton and over the last 20 minutes that you're looking at the January window as the first coach since Tata to have a second transfer window to bring in players that you're looking for. And, obviously there's concern for not making the playoffs. And, I would like to see what the front office and Gonzalo Pineda are looking at when it comes to what they're looking to address. But remember, at the same time, and this is the biggest thing that I will continue to say. Yes, it is a piano behind me. Yes, it is a piano. Yeah, that is a piano, Nix. No, if it was a desk, then I would probably be sitting there and we'd have a different backdrop, because I do have a table and a storage locker. But no, it's a piano. This is the family piano for the boss. And so it has sat here, and it has become something that we put behind the sofa. Sorry. Squirrel got distracted. But no, I mean, and that's the thing, is that you're looking at those decisions that we've been talking about here in the first hour, and what kind of player do you want to bring in? What kind of player are you keeping? And at the same time, when you're looking at press conference, and Nick, this gets to what you're saying here. You're always going to, if you're a coach, you're always going to protect your players when it comes to press conference situations, and you want them to continue to grow. You're always going to sit there and say that you want the best from your players. You're not going to sit there and you're not going to call a player out in so many words, and you're not going to call them out directly if they're not doing something that you don't want them to do. It's going to be looking out for the franchise and looking out for the players and looking out for putting out the best efforts out there. And coaches also, in a post-game situation or a pre-game situation, they're not going to tell you everything, because you don't want to give the opposition any kind of information either. So it's just, once again, it's a part of the process. I mean, we see it in other sports where you have coaches who will sit there and say things about their team. Yes, if they're disappointed, it's a blanket disappointment. It's not going to be something where you're going to call out a specific player for doing something wrong, even if it's directed about a particular player in a question. So just understand in press conference situations that coaches are going to be looking out for the benefit of their clubs when they're going to be talking. So you're not going to get a whole lot of information when it comes to previews. You're not going to, that's just not the way that it's going to be. You're not going to give away all of your secrets when it comes to what you're looking at when it comes to opposition. You're going to give credit. You're going to talk about growth. You're going to talk about what you hope to accomplish in a particular match. You're going to talk about this week about going out on the right foot. You're going to talk about finishing this season on the upswing and making sure that you have something positive that you can build on when it comes to the January transfer window and to next season. That's the kind of stuff. And you have a lot of young talent that we talked about in the first hour that you can build on. And Marcelino Moreno might be one of those questions, Emilio, legitimately. Where does Marcelino Moreno fit in this discussion? And so I think that he's another player that we've added that is part and parcel to a lot of the talk, just because of his recent inactivity. But understand this also. You build a roster of depth for a reason. You build it for individual situations, and not everyone is going to play. Not everyone is going to start each and every game, each and every time. There are games and there are matches across the board where you are looking at, when you have a deep roster and healthy, Atlanta United has a deep roster that was built under cap constraints with what you've seen from the academy, with what has been brought in by the front office. If you look at it from a healthy perspective, you have a deep roster and you have certain situations and certain teams where you're going to play certain players. Marcelino Moreno is a player that, in a certain situation where you need someone who is good with the ball at his feet, who is good with passing, where he can dribble past folks and work his way past defenders and things like that, you're going to need a Marcelino Moreno in your lineup, in your 11 and in your 18. Yeah, but sometimes you have practices. Sometimes you have folks who are good practicers. Sometimes you have folks who aren't good practice players, but then when they get out on the pitch, then they're good players. And so this is the point that I would make once again. When you have a roster that is 100% healthy, you're going to be plugging folks into certain situations to go up against opposition. So just because a player isn't mentioned, just because a player isn't starting, doesn't mean that they're not vital. And I know that's probably a triple negative, and I know that my mother will be driven crazy by that. So just know that when a roster is at full song, then you are building it for certain situations. And so Marcelino Moreno would start against Team X, Y, and Z because you need his skill set to do certain things. Mateus Susetu will start healthy against certain teams because of certain situations. Franco Ibarra will start against certain teams because of certain situations. Amar Sejdic, the same thing, but Sejdic has evolved into someone who you've needed to start and be there. That's part and parcel to the process, and he has stepped up this year. So you've learned things about guys that you had only thought of in certain situations, that because they were pressed into other situations, you've learned more about them. And so I think that that's good for Atlanta United to build their knowledge base going forward with a lot of these guys. And so it's just, once again, it's all a part of gathering your knowledge, and you find out things over the course of a season because of injury and because of one thing or another that you didn't know or that you might have found out. And so it's just all a part of the build and all a part about your knowledge base. And so, Emilio, that's what I'm looking at here. So, yeah, Clayton's questions from hour number one, they're all across the board. And so it'll be interesting to see how Atlanta United builds and works their way through them, and to see the kind of players that Gonzalo Pinedo wants to bring in this second window. And we mentioned Emerson Hyndman with the cap number, and that's definitely going to be a question. And do you keep Purata? Obviously, you hope that you can find a way to keep him in the cap situation. And we mentioned Dom Dwyer, we mentioned Cisneros, and it's like, if you can keep a certain individual under a certain cap number, then if X, then Y. And so I think that you're looking up at striker, and you're looking at the back line once again with the knowledge base of, you don't know if you're going to have Brad from the beginning. You don't know if you're going to have Miles from the beginning. You don't know if you're going to have Ozzie Alonso from the beginning, because you saw what he was there with, because Santi Sosa wasn't healthy. You had Ozzie start those first 5 matches, and then Ozzie gets injured. Initially, it was supposed to be reversed. Santi Sosa would start these matches. Ozzie Alonso comes in, gives you 20, gives you that sandpaper at the back, shuts things down. You get out of there with points. No, Messi would not be sitting on the bench, Emilio. Come on now. So that's the that's the other part of all of this. Let me Crazy. Let's see. So Clayton, it's crazy the amount of people who state this about Arujo. Apparently looks like a no-brainer DP at practice, but at match comes and he's just different. And um, but I'm trying to think this through with Luis. I mean, Luis has had a tough year, and I think that there were times where Luis was probably pressing because you want those kind of guys that will take the game by the scruff of the neck, and he will you forward in these kinds of situations. And sometimes you do press a bit too much. And I think that there were probably moments where a guy like Luis, and I love having a guy like Luis who will take it upon himself to take charge and sit there and it's like, okay, well, if nothing's working here, then I'm going to go ahead and try to push forward and try to help this team forward. And his defensive work rate also, if he's not scoring goals, he's coming back and helping you out defensively. And so seeing that kind of work rate from Luis also. If it's not happening offensively, he's still pitching in defensively, and I will take that. I will take that too. Because if it was someone who was just pressing offensively and he wasn't helping you defensively, then I would have issues. But you see a guy like Luis who absolutely cares, and you see his heart on his sleeve, and you see how much he's investing here, and I think that it's just a combination of things. But yeah, it's been a rough season for Luis, and I think that I want to see him finish strongly in the match this weekend on Sunday, and then we'll see where things continue to go from here. Shiva, if you can't replicate training into game day, then it's on the coach. I would say this, Shiva, when it comes to replicating training into game day, the coach isn't out there playing. So, I mean, it's in the execution of what you're going up against. That's how I would go up against that. What you're trying to say there. Falling off a cliff with Cisneros, Knicks. Yeah, I mean, it's been he hasn't been as clinical the last month, 6 weeks or so, and I mean, I don't know if he was used to all of the work. The work rate that he was given, because I think initially you were looking at Ronaldo as someone who would be giving you the 30 minutes, come in, run like hell for 30 minutes, give you shots and things like that. But he was pressed into starting, and he might have hit a wall. He might have bonked and just trying to sit there and try to figure out how to push through it. And so, there you go. That's what I think with Cisneros, and I know that Ronaldo is going to be a question in the offseason. But once again, I think that, we were talking in hour number one about Joseph, Cisneros, and Dwyer. It looks like you had three different guys. If you could combine them into one guy, then you'd have a hell of a nine. And, you look at what we've seen from Cisneros, the early part, but then once again, I think that maybe the work that he was asked to do in a minutes setting, that might have caught up to him. Yeah, Coco, the Mets won the NL East back in June. I know, it was strange. They did a great job of winning the pennant. And so that was the Braves never lose. Only one team was playing like they had a chance at the playoffs in New England, and it wasn't us. And then I saw that Shooter was in this morning with Shooter's conversations as well. See flashes of what Pineda wants to do, but it's so inconsistent. Arujo on Sunday. Let me look up Luis's numbers on Sunday and Saturday. Sorry. Like everything just blends together now when it comes to the days of the week. Major League Soccer and Saturday. All right. So previous. All right. So let's look at the numbers and look at what we got from Luis. Luis actually had a 7.4 on SofaScore. He had 76 minutes, one shot off target, one blocked, 1 for 2 on dribbles, 88% passing, 4 key passes, 2 for 3 on crosses, 3 for 3 on long balls, 4 for 6 on ground duels. 1 is 1 aerial, so 5 of 7 on duels in the day. Lost possession 10 times, and that might be what you're looking at, Emilio. fouled twice, had a clearance, an interception, and a tackle. So that's the defensive work that we're talking about. Luis actually had the highest number of anyone on the field on Saturday, according to SofaScore. Luis had a 7.4. Tiago had a 7.2. Brooks had a 7.1. Gutman had a 7.1 with a yellow card. And Alan Franco had a 7.0. Everybody else had 6s. And then obviously Raul Godinho had less than a 6 because of the number of goals that were scored. So, and the penalty. So, yeah, I mean, Luis had a 7.4. So that was what they saw out of him. And once again, looking at the full picture of everything. But Luis had the biggest number from SofaScore on the day, with everything going on Saturday. Coco, we talked about didn't like we needed to win and lacked urgency, and Jarrett mentioned it in the first hour, where you're looking at the international break coming at the worst time and just coming back into rhythm, coming into a must-win game, coming back out of the international break. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what we got into that in the first hour. No doubt, if it was Joseph's last goal, it was a banger. And then Shooter's comments about New England. And he talked about the USMNT also. Billy Smith, goalie for the Islanders during their cups, would probably be drinking beers in practice, then lights out in games. Need some of that. I don't want to know if they're drinking beers in practice, though. The lack of ability to put shots on target by our DPs is unacceptable. Most common calls this year by announcers, TV, and radio, shot wide. That's not okay. Okay, so I'd like to know, really, and Coco, this is probably a stat that needs to be found somewhere. Shots on target by the DPs. And the fact that, and this is going with the comments, so kind of bear with me here for a second. I'm trying to think it through as I'm talking it out. I'd like to know, and that DPs traditionally are going to be marked tighter than other individuals. I would think so. And trying to create, shots and shots on target. If you're still creating, I'm cool with it. I mean, if it's something completely and totally, into like row Z or something like that, I'll take create.